Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon and by your tips and memberships on Coffee. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation. Good evening and welcome back to Computerized Start Live. I'm your host, Justin D. Morgan. Yes, I have spun the wheel of regrets. You can just off camera. And before we get to it, we are going to have to ignore Windows telling me that I have updates, and instead update as to who is in the chat. We have Hardware Hacker. Hi, Hardware Hacker. We have Sadmac. Hi, Sadmac. We have Callan. Hi, Callan. We have I8386SX. Hi, Jesse. We have Stian. Hi, Stian. We have Jean-Francois Paré. Hi, Jean-Francois. We have, let's see here, David Starbuck. Hi, David Starbuck. And we have, well, I guess technically me. I'm in the chat. And yeah, I started late. I was doing everything I could to not convince myself to postpone the stream. All right, let's see here. Hardware Hackers commenting his regret, even a question. It's a 2SI. Of course it's a regret. Sadmax says, let's see where we go. Yeah, I was I had to bring the regrets downstairs. That's why I was late. Anyways, let's see here. Ian says, meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out why AUX 3.01 won't install correctly. Well, I've never installed it, so I would not be of any help there. Callan says, he's never late. He's just in time. There we go. That's the spirit. Jean Francois says, a Justin is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. Yes. Stan says, just don't set your computer to the just-in-time time zone. David Starbuck is asking, is the 2SI crummy? Well, we'll see about that. All right, so let's see here. We got the Coffee Go link is in the description. We have Quicksilver AUS. Hi, Quicksilver. Aloha, fellow retro enthusiasts. Anyways, without further ado, I think I got through all the announcements. I might as well face the following.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our favorite segment, Wheel of Regrets. Here's your host, Justin D. Morgan.
Hey, who comes up with these titles anyway?
And let's see here. The first item we have comes to us from... don't let the postage label fool you. This comes from China. I would say hi to all my eBay sellers in China, but I actually buy from very few of them. And I would say hi to all my viewers in China, but looking at my eBay watch metrics, that's possibly a smaller number than the number of sellers I've bought from in China. But nevertheless, if you are one of my eBay sellers that is located in China, or if you are one of my viewers located in China, greetings. Also, I've been waiting on this part for like seemingly 3 weeks now, and the post office decided to bounce it around Virginia a couple days just for good measure. At least it's packaged appropriately. Oh, which Which, actually, if I remember which seller I bought this from, of course it was packaged correctly. I think I got this from Eric Wu's Rare Chips. Hardware Hackers guessing VIC-20 RAM. No, it's not VIC-20 RAM. I could have probably found an eBay seller in the US selling it. It is... It's an IT. An IT. This is a Math Co Pro for a 386DX motherboard. 40 megahertz. Precision crafted by IIT, made in the US. Sent to China as scrap. Likely comes back to the US as a vintage collectible. Hardware Hacker says, no, Justin, it's a 2T. Yes, this is for my 386DX40 motherboard that has built-in cache in the chipset, and hopefully this works. I would test it tonight, but you all are here for another topic, and I get flack when I pull PC motherboards on the bench during Mac streams. I get flack. Okay, maybe if we have time at the end of the stream, I might test it, but we'll set this to the side. Anyways, there we go. This was the best price I could get on a 40 megahertz clock. So, anyways, this next item, which I've already removed from the box, which when I remove things from boxes before the stream, there's probably a good reason why I do it. And in this case, the shipping box was gross. For two reasons. One more sinister than the other. First of all, I think the UPS driver has some rural routes, drives with the doors open, and the box was absolutely covered with dust and dirt. And I didn't feel like dragging it all the way down to the basement in its dirt-covered condition. And secondly, it had a piece of ABC gum on it. So you can, you're not sure what ABC gum is. I'm sure someone in the chat will help you out there. Now you probably know why I disposed of the box already and did not want to bring it down to the basement and get the ABC gum stuck to something else. So anyways, this comes to us from an eBay seller in Pennsylvania. I doubt the eBay seller is the cause of the box grossness. So hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Pennsylvania. Capbomb says, I'm late. It's VIC-20 time. Sadmax says, ew, ABC gum. Yes. Oh, there was one other item in the bag. So, we have a Macintosh IIsi recap kit. Although it does look like there's more than just capacitors in this bag. So let's see what's in here. We have... Oh, look at here. I think we've got a anti-static bag. Oh, this is a power cord. That is not capacitors. I wouldn't want anyone to get that mixed up. We have a Mac IIsi tantalum cap kit. Very nice. That could come in handy. We have a Macintosh Sony APS-06 power supply cap kit that has been opened. And I have a feeling if I bother to check, I will probably find that all the caps are here, along with some random shield that goes to something. But that does appear to be other than tantalum replacements, but I don't know that the IIsi power supply has them. Steven says, hey, you started without me. Oh, YouTube apparently locked up. Well, I cannot control YouTube. I tried to tell YouTube that you shall not misbehave, and, well, nothing happened. Oh, it's still showing me the waiting screen with my cap on top of the IIsi. Yes. All right, and I don't know if anyone could ever guess what is in the bubble wrap. It was also a rather large box. Stan guesses an LC. Hardware Hacker guesses a IIsi logic board. SadMac guesses a IIsi. Well, those are some very good guesses. The LC is... I mean, it is sort of LC-ish shaped, but... Gutbum says, no more IIsis. Yeah. Yeah, Gutbum, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm going to blame eBay for this. Stian says tonight's pizza. I wish I had pizza. Quicksilver is guessing a Quadra 950 board. I wish I had a Quadra 950. That's like something that I would probably never buy for myself, but I would totally accept as a gift. Stian guesses a Trident card. Yes, we have more bubble wrap. So what's in the bubble wrap? What can I say, Gutbomb? I had a moment of weakness when eBay told me that someone else had this auction in their cart. Gutbomb says, I hope it was cheap. Well, yeah, I hope it was cheap too. Oh, looky here. We have a IIsi project bundle. And things shaking around in the case. That is never a good sign. Because it's crummy. Yeah, these are crummy. I can't recommend that anyone buy this computer. It is crummy. It is very crummy. It is not worth you buying. Just don't buy a IIsi. That is my official and unofficial recommendation, both on and off the record. Gutbob says, because it's crummy. Spoiler alert. David Starbuck says, the IIsi project bundle translates to many regrets. John Francois says, so it's a 2 sus. Yeah, this might be a 2 sus. Although, in my defense, while I was unsupervised browsing eBay and it told me that this auction bundle was in someone else's cart, I do now have the bracket for the IIsi case. Although looking at it, it looks identical to the LC case. And I also think I now have a SCSI cable. Oh, this one's been recapped. Notice the happy little tantalum capacitors that I am going to look at like they are very suspect. Someone has recapped this board. How quaint. We have a Sony power supply, like they all have. A recapped logic board. We have RAM that I do not believe belongs to a IIsi. I don't think that's IIsi RAM. I think that might be Macintosh II RAM. Yeah, I may go grab some different Sims, because I'm not sure that's IIsi RAM because of that chip on the end. Stian says, I had a slight eBay regret. I happened across a G4 Cube for $349. The seller sent me a 50 off offer. Thought about it, deliberated. I decided to go for it, and then it said deal not available because someone else hemmed and hauled less than I did. Quicksilver says parody chip. Well, it could be a fake parody chip because I don't think that's a real parody chip. Capum says, Stian, you dodged a bullet. David says, you will be glad later. Stian says, I know, but it would have been nice for my museum. Yeah. Of the Macs that I don't really have a huge interest in owning, the Cube is one of them. I mean, if someone wanted to send it to me as a birthday gift, I would accept it. Maybe a Christmas gift. But I don't think I'd ask for one. Ian says I was going to put it next to my trash can. I presume you mean Trash Can Mac Pro. I think G4 Cubes do at least deserve a little better than beside the garbage can. Okay, so this Sony power supply has the musty smell of mustiness. Steve says, yes, Mac Pro 6, 1, yeah. I don't smell fish, but it sure smells musty. It's got that musty electronic smell. I mean, if you know, you know. I'm probably going to opt not to use it until I open it and inspect it because of how musty it smells. I should probably go grab the working or the rebuilt power supply. And I think we might just try to power this up after it's been recapped. Let's see. Let me just check polarity here real quick on the tantalum caps. So yeah, positive, 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 positive. All right, it looks like they put the tantalum caps in right. They did not replace the axial caps, I don't think. Or oh, maybe they did. Maybe they did actually replace them. They're kind of a weird brand that I've not seen Console 5 use. So they may or may not have replaced them. Alright, so the board does look like it's been recapped properly. I don't see any red flags. We might get some orange flags after we power it up, but I don't see any red flags. But we're not using this. Let me go grab the power supply. One that has the green check mark on it. The green check mark of I rebuilt it, therefore I know it works. All right, we'll go ahead and slide that in the case. I really don't know what to expect. Considering it says Project Bundle, I'm half expecting this to still not work. I'm half expecting this to, like, be recapped, but still doesn't work. Alright, so let's turn on the right plug. Alright, so the right plug has power. Up, there we go. We've got a green light on the inside power supply. All right. 3, 2, 1. Oh! No chime, but we had speaker pops. And this looks familiar. And we have a gray screen. But not the gray screen that would be the correct gray screen we're looking for. A gray screen of, I don't think the video has been initialized. All right. Thermal fingers time. All right. Yeah, well, yellow. Yeah. Pink. Wow. Someone might have said 2CI, but this is a 2SI. Lavender. All right, let me find my thermal camera. We're getting everything but the correct operation. Oh, my ROM sim is handy. I may try my ROM sim. All right. So, interestingly enough, the CPU is 31 degrees. All right, well, let's power it up again and... Okay, the CPU is getting up to about 40 degrees C. Yeah, see the video, the RAM DAC, or no, I guess that's the RAM-based video chip. And, okay, it's not, like, super hot. The SCSI chip's not super hot. Yeah, I don't see anything that's getting concerningly hot. I do see a chip that I'm actually surprised is, not getting hot at all. The main ASIC chip is, like, not getting... Oh, wait. Okay, it's generating a little bit of heat. Okay. Yep. All right. So this one is kind of properly not doing anything. Yes. I think that was a mauve screen. Yeah, we had all the we tasted the rainbow of screen colors. All right. Now, there are like two things that I'm thinking of that we might try. First of all, I'm going to remove these 4 sims because I kind of would expect that we would get a chime and then a sad mac if they were improper sims, but maybe they're just bringing the whole bus down. So, all right. All right. So, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold, please. We need to inspect something. I just noticed something here. Oh, although now that I got light on it, it might be a big nothing burger. Oh. Okay, that's not what I thought it was. I thought it was like bent pins. It does, though, appear as if there actually is something there. Which is now underneath the chip. Wonderful. Alright, I guess we can very cursor, we can play. I might need to ultrasonically clean this board. There does appear to be some stuff under the CPU. I'll spray some contact cleaner through it to maybe flush it, but alright, we'll let that evaporate. Alright. Well, that might have flushed some of it out. Let's see here. Here's these RAM buffers. Maybe it would, Big Bad Biologist might have run into that. Alright. Sprayed some contact cleaner under those chips just to try to flush out anything that might be underneath them. Alright, we'll give it a few moments to flash off, and then, actually, while we wait for that to dry, because I did kind of rather, heavily spray that. Oh, yeah. Let's take a look at the other bubble wrap bundle of joy, shall we? No, I should, You'll never guess what it is. You'll never guess. Never in 1,000 nanoseconds guess what this is. David Starbucks says, DoorDash is too expensive, but I'm too lazy to go pick up food. David Starbuck guesses it's an old Mac. Jean-Francois guesses it's a Cray XMP. Stian guesses the safe guess. It's another 2SI, yes. After all, this was a 2SI repair bundle. Oh, lovely. Well, there's some authentic packing peanuts. That's just lovely. And we have the hard drive bracket, but no SCSI cable. And we have the floppy drive. So at least I have 2 floppy drives, even if there's no chance in the world that I'm going to get all these 2SIs repaired. This one's got a tantalum capacitor that is off the board. Alright, well, it's, well, that's weird. Anyone want to take a... Oh, we got a power cable in this one. Anyone want to take a gander as to what this one's going to do? It has not been recapped. I'm tempted to... Oh, and it did not have a power supply in it, so I did know... Stian says in 7 of 9 voice, it will fail. Yeah, that probably will fail. All right. I can get the power supply out. Why is it stuck? Oh, it is stuck because there is a tab. There's a tab on the power supply. Oh, there's a tab on both sides of the power supply that you have to press to get it out. And, oh, that's right. In order to get it out, you have to first remove the fan. That's right. There we go. And then you can depress the tab on both sides of the power supply and all right. Even the toolless toolma thingamabobber jigger thingies are tough. Ian says, the quick's over. If we were a little closer to Halloween, some component could sprout from Justin D. Morgan's hand, and then he'd get assimilated by the 2SI. Okay, so we are going to plug the power in. And it's going to turn on all by itself because, of course, it would. Because the knob was turned to power on. The power button has a position that you can put it in. The floppy drive is also... Alright, I unplugged the floppy drive. It was making weird noises. Alright. 3, 2, 1. Alright, we have a black screen. Something tells me that is probably... let's see here. Looking at the thermal camera. Okay, well that chip's probably not, like, too hot. CPU... Okay, CPU's doing things. The ASIC appears to be doing things. Yeah, but we got a black screen. Okay. This one is even less functional. Might need recap. Probably, well, I know it needs recap. These caps were so high quality, they practically fall off the board at this point. Capcom says, dang it. Yeah. Okay, so let's track the floppy drive of... Oh yeah, that would be why this floppy drive probably was making grinding noises. It is kind of rusty and corroded. That might be unsalvageable. All right, let's get this power supply out. There's that plastic catch. There we go. So this one has no video. No video, no chime. That's also missing capacitors. C12 is popped up off the board, which is a tantalum. I don't know if that's important or not. Capcom, yeah, Stan's asking, is this the third Mac IIsi? Capcom says fourth, lol. Yeah. This is a demonstration in crumminess. That, notice, I have yet to buy one well, okay, the one hasn't been recapped. This one has been recapped, but it is... I did not recap it, so... Alright, so let's try this again. I sprayed some contact cleaner to try to flush under the CPU and the transceiver chips. Capcom says they may just require cleaning. Like deep cleaning. I'm actually going to try something here. I've got a ROM sim. I'm going to put a ROM sim in. I'm going to put the jumper on. That was wishful thinking. Alright, contact cleaner in the ROM sim socket. Otherwise, we'll pull this logic board out and... Well, yeah, it powers up. Alright, let me check the... Let me check voltages here real quick. At the, power connector here. Let me plug that in to help me. Alright, so there's... Alright, so we've got 4.94 volts. And we got 12.22 volts. So we've got 5 and 12 volts making it to this side of the logic board. We've got 11.25 volts coming out of the, or wait, that's probably going into the 7905. Negative 5.02. Okay, so we got negative 5 and negative 12 volts, 5 and 12 volts. Okay, so we have the voltages. Yeah, I'm trying to get one to work because Gutbomb and I are working on a video. Gutbomb says, I do have to admit the growing pile of them makes for some good content. Well, this is like it. If I can't get one of these, if I can't get 1 out of 4 to work, then that, like, I'm not buying any more 2SIs. This is it. That will unfortunately solidify me into camp completely crummy. Cannot recommend. Okay. David Starbucks says, if I had a 700 and Amiga 3000 to go along with my 486, I'd be happy. Well, David says, oh, I kind of covered a 700. They look cool. Yeah, Quadra 700s look cool. They look cooler if you actually have the Quadra 700 case. Because I have a Quadra 700 logic board. I'm presuming the case was probably, given how it was acquired, I'm suspecting the case was broken and the logic board rescued from a broken case. So I wish I had the case for it, yeah, but well, I got a 2VX case for it instead. So, all right. Hi, Thomas Armstrong. Welcome. We'll have to watch later. The beginning later. Yep. Jesse says VCF Midwest had a collection of Quadra 700 for display. Not sure if they were for sale. Ian says every so often empty Quadra cases show up on eBay. Well, I'm probably not willing to pay eBay prices for a Quadra 700 case. Nepom says, I recently got a Quadra 700. I will be making a non-crummy video about it someday. Alright, so I am going to, like, clean this board with some isopropyl alcohol. Because I can't ultrasonically clean it tonight and have it dry for testing. And while the board looks good, it does kind of seem like whoever recapped this might have not cleaned the board afterwards. Of course, I'm also kind of afraid that there could be shorts or broken traces under these tantalums, but I have no reason to suspect that right now because the symptoms it's having match symptoms of other boards I have, and I I don't know why I'd need to soak it in vinegar for 10 minutes. I don't like the smell of vinegar that much. Also, I don't have enough IPA to flush it with IPA afterwards. There's a reason I have an ultrasonic cleaner. Stian says soak it in lye for 48 hours, then serve. Oh, if anyone was wondering when I would spill the isopropyl alcohol, well, I didn't even get the whole board clean, and I've already done spilled it. Well, I found, and maybe this is wrong, but I found if you ultrasonically clean the board, then you don't need to, with board cleaner, then you don't need to do an acid wash first. Of course, that's because the ultrasonic cleaning probably cleans the electrolyte off the board. Oh, you buy Amazon, is it Amazon Basics? I mean, I could be totally wrong about the skipping the step of washing it in acid first. And yes, I've got citric acid, but it does seem like there's something on the pins of the processor. There, I think I got it off. Whatever it was. Yeah, so I usually just ultrasonically clean it, and I like minimizing steps. All right, so that's cleaner. It is a bit shinier. Also a bit smellier. Some airflow with my smoke absorber to maybe pull some of the isopropyl smell away from me. All right, let's let that have a moment to dry. I mean, I will ultrasonically clean this board. Just probably not tonight. It's a little contact cleaner to really make sure it's clean. And it'll make sure the yeah, that actually, a lot of these pins now look a little shinier now that I've done that. And I'm not afraid of what gunk might be around the processor pins. So, that should be worth at least extra bonus point of anti-crumminess. Had to make sure I had the right power supply. There we go. It's the one with the green check mark on it. All right, there we go. Plug the power supply in. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Oh, thank you, Stian, for the $1 super chat. Thank you. A bonus point. All right. All right, let's try the... Actually, I'm going to try the ROM sim in this one. Actually, I'm going to put the jumper on for the ROM sim. Let's see what it does. Oh. Nothing. All right, let's plug that in. Oh, interesting. All right, let's take the ROM sim out. Does not even want to power up with the ROM sim installed. That is weird. All right. I'm not sure if IPA is conductive or not, but hi Garth, welcome. I mean, maybe. I mean, it is 99% IPA. I mean, okay, so I just stuck my multimeter probes in the isopropyl alcohol, and it's 6 mega ohms. So I don't think it's conductive enough to do much, but I guess I can let that. I guess I can set this aside to dry a little more. Yeah, David Starbucks says IPA is not conductive. And hi, Mike's Future Retro. Welcome. All right, so let's go to the other board, the one that needs recapped. And I guess let's... All right, let's get it out of the case, and I guess we can... recap it. After all, the auction included a cap kit, so... And after all, I've already spilled the isopropyl alcohol again. Let me just set a paper towel under my silicon mat. There we go. That's better. All right. Let's go ahead and start the recapping by decapping. All right, don't know what I did with it, so we'll just use a different one. All right. Woo! Oh boy, that smelled like fish. And that wasn't even a tantalum capacitor. Or a electrolytic. Alright, so there was a tantalum capacitor that was broken off the board. It is a... I think a 10 microfarad 16 volt. So I'll have to go see if I've got one to replace it. I think I do. Because unfortunately, whatever knocked it off the board broke its one of its two legs. So I can't even test it to see if it's shorted. So I'll just have to replace that when I can go find one. Alright, so let's get the... Alright, let's get the electrolytics off this board. Actually, I think some of the cap kits might have an extra 10 microfarad 16-ish volt cap for the if you have the new bus card. All right, so let's get the old caps off the board. There it says oh, talking about like when you have to worry about reworking if you reworking a board and you're using isopropyl alcohol? Good question. All right, so let's see how far I can get with the quick capacitor removal method. At least the one good thing is, so far it looks like all of the pads are still present on the board, including for the caps that have already detached themselves from the board. Okay, those look like they're still intact there. This cap here is that you can't see because we're zoomed in too far. Whoop. That cap fell right off. And this cap is about to fall off. So I'm gonna, there we go. Pads are still present there. And this one. Okay, very good. I think all the pads are still present. Ian's asking, I wonder why the board has 4 oscillators on it. That is a great question. So this is going to be the CPU clock because it's 40 megahertz. And then these 3 clocks, I believe, are all going to the video chip to synthesize the VGA frequency. I think a lot of VGA chips at the time, or video chips, required multiple clocks to set up their, I think, phase-locked loops to generate the actual frequencies that it needed for generating video. I think nowadays I guess they have better PLLs and can do it with like 1 oscillator. But I think at this time, my guess, I haven't actually looked it up, I suspect the state of the art was they needed a couple of frequencies to generate the one. Or possibly, my alternate theory is Apple was reusing logic to make this, and that some of the logic supports more than one frequency, but Apple removed that functionality, but the core still requires multiple clocks. Hardware Hacker says, multiplying like rabbits. David says, that's what happens if you get them wet like Mogwai, yeah. But there's our processor clock, and if we get one of these to actually work, then I have a 50 megahertz oscillator at the ready. We are going to decelerate the board. Because the story that I've heard is that Apple developed the IIsi to run at 25 megahertz, but decided late in the development that that would steal too many sales from the IIci, so it's only going to run at 20 megahertz. But I have read accounts where back in the day, people would buy little clock chips or clock clips or something, and they would upgrade their IIsi back to a 25 megahertz bus. So yeah. Well, Stian says deliberately crippled, but not all the chips may be rated for 50 or 25 megahertz. Well, we will see if it runs at 50 or 25 megahertz. What I've heard, the historical account is that Apple designed the chips to run at 25 megahertz. Now, granted, were they validating the chips to run at 25 megahertz since they decided to ship at 20? Well, that is probably true. There could be chips that got shipped that won't run at 25 megahertz because they were only screening them to 20 megahertz. But David Starbucks says, so Apple wanted them to be crummy. Got it. So yeah, so I'm going to try it because Apple designed the chips to run at 25 megahertz, but depending on how late this is, were they screening the chipsets to run at 25 megahertz? That's a good question. We won't know that until we try. Socket Wrench says, Apple being Apple. Ian says, oh. Ian says, and then they shipped with System 6.0.6, which flat out crashed if you tried to use the flagship new feature, sound input. David Starbucks asking, this is the era when Apple had like 90 different models, right? No. This is not quite yet. Apple is not quite there yet, I don't think. However, I think they are very quickly getting there at this point. Yeah, Stan says, not quite before that. But it also wasn't too long before Apple then had started making more and more models. But yeah, this was not the crazy model number era. But you wouldn't have to wait long. All right. So I think for these pads, I'm probably going to tin them and I'm going to tin them and then wick them again, except for the tantalum cap pads here. They're fine. I think the cap got physically knocked off the board. Although it's possible leaking electrolyte from one of these caps maybe got on the leads of it and weakened it, but I think it got knocked off the board. All right. So there's that. Yeah, Stian says, oh yeah. Well, now, Apple did announce the LC at the same time as the IIsi. Stian says, the next generation after these introduced the 2VI and the 2VX, and after that we got the Performa everything, and the Centrus everything, and the LC everything, and the Quadra everything. Alright. Let's tin these pads just a little bit. Actually, I find that embarrassingly funny that System 6.0.6 didn't work with the new sound input feature. And I have to wonder, is that a no one caught it? Or was that a we must make our release date, so we're going to have to ship with this bug? I sure hope it wasn't the we've got to release now, because that would be quite disappointing to get your new 2SI or LC, although maybe the bug just affected the 2SI. And you got your cool microphone that might have come in the box, and you plug it in, and you're just about ready to check out this new sound input that your Apple II didn't have. And system bomb, or system crash, or whatever it did. Yeah, maybe they just didn't catch it. Well, if I can find the most awkward way to... So basically what I did is I added some fresh solder and then some flux, and I'm just trying to clean the pads. So that when I solder new capacitors on, they'll hopefully be no drama solders. All right. Mike says, I have an incoming Performa 475 arriving next week. 25 megahertz, 68 LC040 can be modded to 33 megahertz. More to come on my potential future retro regret. Capcom says you can even run it at 40 megahertz. All right, so let's inspect these pads here. Okay, that looks... Oh, okay. I think that's just, I think that's a blob of glue. Yeah. All right, that was some factory glue there. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks good. Those look good. Yeah, I'll pull out the multimeter and I'll just double check that there's no that the pads are actually attached to where I think they are. There's also the chance to make sure there's no solder mask or trace breaks under where these capacitors need to go. And that actually looks like potentially a solder mask break right there. Yep, that does indeed look like a solder mask break right there. But that does not look like a trace break. So we'll have to put a little UV cure solder mask on that. Okay, continuing along. Yep. All right. I will check all these with a multimeter, but I just want to inspect them. All right, that's a little blob of glue. Actually, those traces look good underneath the cap. Let me see if I can get this little... That's just the glue they used to hold the cap down at the factory. Same right there. Another blob of glue. I guess I could just leave it there. I don't think it'll affect the way the cap will sit. Alright. This all look fine. Alright, so let me... Let me clean the flux up so I can check with the multimeter. I've had times where the flux prevents a good contact with the multimeter probe. Also, the chance where I will make sure that I got everything off the board and didn't miss a pad where the capacitor was already gone. Alright, so let's see here. Ian says, my first computer was a Mac 128K. Hardware Hacker says mine was a Mac Plus. Ian says, my second was a Commodore 64 that my parents bought so I would stop hogging the 128K. Thomas Armstrong says, Tandy never built a bad PC. Someone else made it for them. We have... Hardware Hacker says... Then SE30 followed by Mac... Oh. Hardware Hacker says, mine was a Mac Plus, then SE30 followed by Mac IIsi. Alright, let's count the number of caps here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I got 11 capacitors removed, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13 in the kit. I believe that is correct because I think they include 2 extras for if you have the new bus card. Because that has 2 caps on it. 1 or 2 caps. And I think a significant number of the 2SIs had at least they either had the PDS card or the new bus card. And I think that's when Console 5 will just make the kit with the extra caps because there's just so many that had it. They don't have a cap list here. Let me see here. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Just want to double check that I've got all the caps. Yep. There are 11. All right. And they are 47 microfarad. So I can't use these to replace this one here that came off. I'll have to go find one in my stash. Although I think for the initial recapping, I'm going to hope that's a non-important cap for powering up. All right, so let's see if I can't. I'm just double checking that we have continuity. That's 1, 2, 3. Four. We're good there. Four. Let's see here. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. Of course, the last one, I would have trouble seeing where the V is going. There it is. 11. All right. So the only place. All right. So I do need to fix one spot of solder mask. So I am going to use the Console 5 bag here that has all the caps dumped out in another bag as a, shall we call it a paint palette. So I can paint some happy little solder mask onto the board here, and then we'll have to wait while the solder mass cures, and I will be able to catch up with the chat. All right. Maybe a little blobbier than I wanted to get, but I also want to get that spot kind of right. Right there between the two pads, because I can't tell if it's... There we go. Maybe a little heavier than I wanted to put it, but that's the way we make sure that I don't short something when I solder the new capacitors on, because the tantalum leads are there's a shorter distance between a tantalum lead and a electrolytic lead, so all right, I'm trying to... Why in the world? Hold, please. I'm trying to move something off of my curing lamp and blindly set it somewhere. Oh, that's not going to work. And I'm trying to do it while not dropping my phone onto the floor. There we go. All right, there's Mr. Randy of the hardware store I shop at. Although he's retired now, but I think he still does show up occasionally to say hi. So everyone could say hi to Mr. Randy there. There we go. All right, so we will let that solder mask cure, and then we will install the replacement caps, although I will go ahead and warm up Claris so I can get the through-hole ones. Oh, you know, I think this other board has dried now completely, so we could, I guess while we wait for the UV Cure solder mask, we can maybe see if, now that it is completely dry, if it's going to do anything different. Otherwise, I'm probably going to have to either ultrasonically clean it, assuming it's still got problems from not being properly cleaned, or... Alright, so let's see what it does. I think we're just going to get the gray screen. Yep. Alright, I guess I'll have to... The next step for this board is ultrasonic cleaning. Okay. Screen of regret. Yeah. Alright, so that board will need ultrasonically cleaned. I mean, I was going to ultrasonically clean it anyways, but... There's also a chance that I may end up recapping this board. But probably not tonight. I think we have time to only recap one board, and I'm going to recap the one that wasn't recapped. But because I wasn't the one that recapped that board, and there's a chance there's broken traces underneath the tantalums, I may recap it. But I'll try ultrasonic cleaning first. That just won't be tonight. I think the isopropyl alcohol cleaning I gave it tonight will hold it until next weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend, when I should have a chance to try to recap it, or ultrasonically clean it. So, yes. So I guess before I forget, no streams next week. I'm taking a week off. I will not be on Dave's stream this Sunday, but I hope to be on Dave's stream next Sunday, and I may be looking at ultrasonic cleaning of IIsi boards, and then my normal streaming schedule will resume on the 29th, and we will look at the 5150 on the 29th. Since these IIsis arrived today, I decided to bump the IBM until the Monday I'm back to take a look at it, because yep, no streams from me next week. Everyone has to take the occasional week off, and that will be next week for me, so I don't know that I'll get much retro shopping in, but I do know I will be near a video game store, so I would like... There's like a Game Boy game I'd like to pick up. So, yeah, I probably will take my Game Boy with me next week. So that if I do get to go to that video game store and I find the Game Boy game I want, probably a Mario game, then at least I'll... Or at least Tetris, I'll be able to test it. Yeah, David Starbuck says, you need to unplug sometime. And actually, tomorrow night while I'm doing laundry, I may try to fix my Game Boy Color. Oh, wait. Oh, actually, I just realized. I didn't put the screws back in my Game Boy Color. Oh yeah, I could almost totally try to fix this while I'm waiting for solder mask to cure, other than the fact that this isn't a very good workspace. After all, I did order another set of parts to fix this, and then found the first ones that I had misplaced, so... Yeah, I was going to try to fix that to take that with me, too. David Starbucks says, I'm going to do nothing tomorrow but read and drink coffee. And cuss at my cats. Quicksilver says, everyone needs a break, big bro. Yep. So I will enjoy my time off, and hopefully we'll come back rested and relaxed and ready to tackle some tough projects like the IBM 5150 and potentially more 2SI fun, because it's really been a challenge. Actually, while I wait for the solder mask to cure, let me see if I can find a 10 microfarad 16 volt cap to replace this one that came off the board. I think I've got some, so let me go see if I can find one of those. Success! In fact, I think once I replace it, you'll never know, because I think it's the same size. Let me throw away the blob before I get it all over everything. All right, let's see here. Where did that tantalum cap go? Yeah, I'm pretty sure these are the same size as it, so you'll never know. Mike says the VCF East swap meet October 18th. I gotta look at my schedule. All right, there we go. Yeah, I think I ordered these caps, if I'm not mistaken, to fix a new bus video card. Hardware Hackers already booked the hotel for the night before because I live in Massachusetts. Yeah, I don't have a. I would like to go to that swap meet. If I go, there's probably stuff I would have to sell. And I don't know what my schedule is. I'll put it this: if I do go, I would have to sell stuff just to make the, in order to make the trip work. Stian says could sell some 2SI bundles. Well, these 2SI bundles so far are not um, bundling. They're Technicolor screening. I think you have to pay people to take as-is 2SIs, unless they're on eBay, the place where I buy the things I later regret. Can't you tell I'm finding the 2SIs to be more and more crummy every day? Seriously, if you want to get into vintage Mac collecting, Stian says put up an eBay sign. Problem solved. Seriously, if you want to get into vintage Mac collecting, don't start with the 2SI. Don't make number 2 a 2SI. Don't make a number 3 a 2SI. Maybe not get a 2SI, but if you really do have to get a 2SI, treat yourself to a few other Macs that are easier to fix first, because Harder Hacker says just put a sticker as seen on JDMCS. Yeah. Seriously, that would... David Starbucks says, I was just going to say you'd probably need to pay people to take your 2SIs off your hands. Now, a 2SI case in good condition, yeah, you could probably sell that. The hard drive bracket, oh yeah, that would sell. Put a logic board in that 2SI case and call it a 2SI, yeah, you're going to have to pay someone to take it. Quicksilver says, make sure you have a Wheel of Regret prop behind you. Yeah. All right. Is it cured? I am not... Okay, I'm not totally convinced it's fully cured, so I'm going to give it another minute or two. I'm going to wait till it kicks off. It should kick off here momentarily. Ian says, you can always put a better logic board in there, like a VIC-20 board. Yeah, I do have a VIC-20 or two in my probably should sell pile. What else is in my probably should sell pile? Let's see, I've got a Commodore floppy drive. Probably no chance I'm going to ship that, because I got too many Commodore floppy drives. Performa 600, because I have another Performa 600 that needs work. If I'm being honest, and I go through my motherboard pile, I'm pretty sure that I probably have a couple motherboards that are duplicates that I should probably sell. I do not have any 1581s, not even in my keeping pile. I don't have a 1581 period. I've got a 1541 that's in my probably should sell pile. I think I've got two in my probably should sell pile. Got bomb. Quite honestly, I could probably sell a third, but there might be a pet keys variety in my probably should sell pile. Because as Gupom knows, I have two of them. And I don't need to keep both. Gupom says we should talk later then. Okay. We can talk later. All right. I'm thinking that should be cured by now. I will double check it. Yep. We're good. Solder mask is cured. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the... I don't know how far I'm going to be able to zoom in and... So I'm going to start with this tantalum cap here to replace the one that came off the board. All right, tantalum caps, the stripe goes towards positive. And luckily the board has a positive mark right right here. There's our stripe. And again, I don't know exactly why this cap was tombstoned. I have a feeling something probably just struck it. Because it's not like it had electrolyte leaking out of it, but it's possible that electrolyte might have weakened it, but there we go. So there's our replacement cap right there. 1016. And quite honestly, I think unless you zoom in, you'll probably never really notice that that cap is slightly different from the rest. Have I poked any of my IIsi boards with the scope yet? I think I did scope one of them a while ago, but it was inconclusive. I don't have room on my bench for the scope tonight, so that's why we're recapping this board to see what happens. I gotta put my scope back together. Also, I'm like not a professional when it comes to scope usage, so hey Dave, welcome. Also, I commend anyone that thinks I have the patience to trace out 32 address lines and 32 data lines all over a board when all I've got to tell me where each goes is a really badly drawn Beaumark schematic. I thought someone sent me a spreadsheet of like a cross-reference of where things went on a 2SI board, but I think that was for something else. I think that might have been an SE30. All right. Yeah, I'm just going to try to get these 4 caps here. Oh, hey, Mr. Tech Gadget, welcome. All right, so we are recapping this 2SI that came from eBay, the place where I buy the things I later regret, using the cap kit that came with the eBay auction. Obviously, this was someone's project that they decided to sell. They even shipped it to me really fast, like they wanted to make sure I received it before I could change my mind on it. There we go. At least in this corner of the board, we got the 4 new 47 microfarad 16 volt caps. Yeah, one's a little bit crooked, but given how well made these logic boards are, it's going to stay a little bit cattywampus. I know some of y'all are not going to agree with that, but remember, of the 4 2SI logic boards that I have, none of them work. Yeah, I'm sure I'll get one working at some point. But more importantly, on one of them, like half the pads are gone, so I'm going to do everything I can to not make another board lose a whole bunch of pads. Sadback says, honestly, if it works, it works. Yeah. Because let's face it, it's not like I'm likely going to be recapping these boards to resell, unless I manage to get more than one working. Which in that case, I guess, I'll sell them on eBay at Steve Jobs rare pricing. In fact, I'll totally make a run of stickers that says refurbished on computerized start, just so I can put one on the 2SI I sell on eBay. That's worth at least an extra $10, don't you think? Mr. Tech Gadget says, oh, Mr. Tech Gadget says, looks good. I got 2 2SIs. One of them's working. The other is a power supply issue. Oh. The other motherboard, I think, is either RAM or logic chips. Jack's asking, oh, hi, Jack. Welcome. Jack's asking, so is this a new 2SI board or one of the previous ones? No, this is a new 2SI board. In fact, it's one of 2 new 2SI boards because the auction I bought was a lot of 2 of them. Although in cases with, like, floppy drives and hard drive brackets. So, and even the cap kit I'm using was included with the eBay auction. Apparently, I think the person I bought it from was likely going to get in over their head, so they sold it as an auction bundle. I'm not entirely happy with the way that one looks. There we go. I think that looks better. All right. This one. Okay, so the other board that was in the eBay auction, I guess for those who have more recently joined, that's my rebuilt power supply there. But it had already been recapped. We're getting multicolored screens on power up, so I'm going to put it through the ultrasonic cleaner just to make sure the board is properly cleaned before I potentially troubleshoot something that's nothing more than residual electrolyte underneath something causing problems. This one had not been recapped and had missing caps and definitely smelled like fish when I started heating things up. So we had a black screen. Yeah, it was more of a mauve flag, yeah. So anyways, this one had a black screen when I tried to power it up, but it also had probably no functional capacitors on the board, and a capacitor that got knocked off the board. So in addition to the electrolytics that needed replaced, there was a tantalum cap that was not attached, because I think it had been physically impacted by something. So the board had even less capacitance than it normally would. So that's why I thought, well, I should probably recap it before I assume the worst. At least get the surface mounts. And especially the... So luckily I had some replacements for the tantalum on hand. Luckily it was a common value. All right. That's good enough there. All right. I think those two are good. Yep. All right, so let's get this one here. That's the one I had to add a little solder mask over some exposed copper underneath. This is also the one that if that other board doesn't work after ultrasonic cleaning, then this is probably... Actually, you know, I may remove that cap on that other board and check underneath that cap before I ultrasonically clean it. Because that's the one cap, I think, on the IIsi that has a bunch of traces running underneath it. I think a bunch of these other caps, there's no, like, fine traces underneath them. I think the odds are in my favor. I'm thinking positively. I think someone at the ROM printing factory had a kind of a kind of faded there on the one side. That's weird. All right. This will be the one that I might pull off on the other board. In fact, if we have time, I might even do that tonight. Because it's, 11:17. Yeah. I'm doing pretty good on time here for recapping. All right. Get this one here. Maybe we can get Garth to go back in time and ask his old, old former Apple employee self to check the company archives on the 2SI. See if there was anything in the company reports about the the 2SI standing for self-destructing. Self-destructing. Don't know what the I would be. Oh, obviously the I is the I in destructing. David says Unix shenanigans. Oh. Ian says the Mac side installed fine, but the AUX side apparently did not, and I don't know why. Oh. I don't know either because I practice totally normal computing. Like, Dave says I'm a speed demon. I mean, there's only 13 electrolytics that need replaced on a 2SI. And due to the nature of the caps on these machines, like some of them were already off the board, so it didn't take me that long to remove them. Yeah, look at that. These recaps go pretty quick when you just install the same value over and over again. Oh, Dave might be referring to the fact I like to put faster processors and things. Yeah, I do like to do that. There we go. We have 13 new surface mount caps. I am going to test these. I'm going to test these two in circuit. That is not correct. That's within. All right. All right. Let's replace these because one of them is seemingly out of spec. These will take forever to get off the board potentially. Alright. To help facilitate removing these through-hole capacitors, I am going to use some low-melt solder. And I'm using the body of the capacitor as a heat shield. There we go. 1. 2. 2 capacitors out. And I only almost burned my finger. Yes, when the Claris slipped, I brushed past my thumb. Much closer for comfort than I would have preferred, but I did not burn my finger. It did feel a little bit of heat, but no burn. Oh, Stian's asking about recaps. I I'd have to scroll back and what's Stian looking for help to recap? All right, let's see here. Let me double check that I'm reading the capacitors right here. All right, so that is pointing towards negative. Yep, pointing towards negative. Hold, please. That via is not entirely clear. Now is it? Nope, not quite yet. All right. There's that cap. That one. That. Got that one in. I think somewhere I have some surface mount caps for some Mac. Yeah, it's a 220 microfarad. Why do you ask? Yeah, there's two. There should be two caps, 220 microfarads. They're both. There we go. Yeah, they're both 220 16s. Well, I mean, these are the bulk bulk power capacitors, so honestly, if you did put a 470 in place of these, I would say there's a good chance the board is still going to work. I don't know that that would be a significant amount of extra capacitance for trouble to happen. Although remember, I'm not an electrical engineer, but he is asking, why were all of Apple's capacitors some multiplier of 47? Maybe someone at Apple liked Star Trek? The Next Generation? Yeah, there were other values as well. Alright, so I'm just going to do a little bit of cleanup of the flux that's on the board. Probably won't get all the flux off, but I'm also going to give some of these frequently gross pin items a little bit of clean. All right. Okay. So we will let that dry for a moment. All right. While we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to test these two big capacitors now that they are both off the board. Because one of them in circuit measured an insane value. All right, that one's still within spec. Okay, so they're both actually within spec. But I usually do replace all the caps. They come with a cap kit. So the through holes head replacements, I'll replace them. The IIsi is such a high quality product made by the best minds at Apple. The best minds at cutting costs, that is. So there we go. We have a recapped board. Easier to test. I'm going to put it down in its chassis. Because that way we can have the speaker. Alright, let's see here. Alright. There's that. Let me grab the power supply. Because it's still in the other frame. Alright. Put that there. So place your bets in the chat. Alright, this is the power supply I rebuilt with new internals. So I know the power supply is good. Alright. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Yes! That was good. Now you're probably wondering, why am I so happy over a Sad Mac? Well, this is the first one that I've had that's actually chimed. Yeah, Ian says, Sad Mac is better than no chime. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything on the screen. So I don't know what Sad Mac code that is. No, I have no video, so I have no code. Wait a minute. That was a dong. We had a chime. No Sad Mac. We have black video. All right. I have a feeling it probably still crashed. Pulling out the thermal camera. All right, yeah, we have no video. All right. I do see all the proper chips seem to be getting warm. I don't see anything that's like overheating. Okay, I've got an idea here. Okay, so ROM sim. We'll put the jumper in place. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I kind of figured that was going to happen. All right, so okay, what would happen if I take the ROM sim out and oh, absolutely nothing. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So without a ROM, yeah, without a ROM, we get multicolored screens. All right, so why ever this is failing, it's failing regardless. Which probably means there's an onboard RAM fault as quickly as it's failing. But I don't know. But we get a SADMAC, so that means this one might be a candidate for trying to use the onboard diagnostics. But I'll have to figure out how to connect the terminal to the serial port. Because I think the computer has to run far enough. Ian says onboard RAM fault shouldn't prevent basic video. Stian's asking me to try a ROM sim from one of the other 2SIs. None of the 2SIs have a ROM sim. The only ROM sim I have is the universal ROM sim that Dave sent me, and you still get the SADMAC, like, just as it quickly. Jack says, as long as the CPU isn't halted, you're probably in diagnostic mode right now. I don't have the means to connect it to a terminal, so... Because Macs use RS422, so... I'm trying to look, is there anything I missed? Well, no, I did not get video with the universal ROM. Stian's asking what's on the connector. I think there's a little bit of corrosion on the connector, but that shouldn't... I don't think that's why we're not booting. I think it's basically for factory test. I think all the main voltages are on the connector. I don't know what's actually on the connector. That'd require me to find the connector on the Beaumark schematics. I can see, though, that several of the voltage rails are on the connector. I don't think we can use those signals for debugging. I think I need a serial cable to hook it up to the serial port to run the burn-in test. Okay, so that's the burn-in connector. And it looks like the burn-in connector is... Oh, actually it looks like the burn-in connector may have a serial port on... Oh, the burn-in connector I think is connected to the modem port. Which doesn't actually help us, because same deal, I don't have a RS422 adapter, so... The burn-in port also has the 3 voltage rails, or the 4 voltage rails, and a couple grounds, and a pin from the VIA, which probably used by the Mac to... Probably used to put the Mac into factory test mode. Jack says, when you have a chance, make yourself a serial cable of this. If you need help with the pinout, I have the info. Cian says, you don't need an RS422 adapter if you solder the right wires to a DB9 connector directly from that connector. Jack says, to use the built-in diagnostic mode, you need a fairly straightforward serial cable and a USB serial adapter. Okay. Problem number 1. I'll need to get a connector I can actually solder to. I need a, yeah. That's problem number 1. I don't have any on hand. I will have to order some. Or you can connect to another Mac and use Z-Term. I don't have a dual modem cable to be able to connect it to another Mac. I could connect it to an image writer, but that wouldn't help. Yeah, I'll get some connectors, and then I can make a cable. I don't have any connectors, so I can't do it now. Even though I probably have a serial port I could use, I don't have a connector that I can solder to I have some connectors, but I had trouble soldering to them. And I'm not going to be able to solder up something in 10 minutes. Jack says the image writer is not good at diagnostic mode. Stan says, hacking an image writer to read the diagnostics and print them on paper for a future live stream. Jack says, oh, those mini Den 8 connectors are super annoying to solder to. And the ones I have aren't the solder cup style. They're the, Justin gets frustrated trying to solder to them style. I mean, maybe if I only have to solder 2 wires, then maybe I can pull it off, but I don't know. I'll see if I can't find the connector I can actually solder to. Or maybe I'll find a mini Den 8 cable and just cut the cable in half. Ian says, yeah, that's why I was thinking about using the burn-in connector. The burn-in connector has larger pads. The burn-in connector route assumes that I'm reading the Beaumark schematics correctly. I am not going to assume I am reading the Beaumark schematics correctly. Even though it does appear as if pin 1 is 1, 2, 4, 3. So it looks like pin 1 is transmit. Pin 2 is... Okay, pin 1 is transmit plus. Pin 2 is transmit minus. pin 4 is receive minus, and pin 3 is receive plus. If I'm reading the schematic correctly. Jack says, I feel like that part of the Beaumark schematics are likely to be right, even other parts are sus. Well, that's assuming I'm reading it right, because it's broken onto 2 pages. And there's lines going behind lines. And it's 6 till midnight. I mean, it is probably correct, but I don't have the means to make a cable tonight, so it will have to wait. But they probably are correct, but it is going to have to wait. I really don't want to tack wires onto that connector because then it won't look factory. Oh wait, this thing will never look factory. It's that cruddy. Never mind. I'll happily solder wires to it, but then I'll have to find a DB9 connector so I can make the serial end. Yeah. All right. I guess this is kind of where the stream's going to come to an end. So, the two SIs that I bought from eBay, and I got one that goes directly to a SADMAC. So, it's probably the best last hope for me getting a 2SI working. Ian was like, I was just trying to think of a way around not having mini DINs. I mean, I guess I could probably solder to that connector. Then I wouldn't have to solder to a mini DIN. I mean, the connector has enough tarnish on it. I'm probably going to have to re-tin it anyways to keep it from corroding. So, yes. All right. Am I going to buy any more 2SIs? No. This is it. If I can't get a working one at this point, then my conclusion will be that they are completely, absolutely crummy. And even if I do get one working, Jack says this one is going to work. I hope so. I mean, I will put it through the ultrasonic cleaner. It is entirely possible that there is crud underneath something. Thomas is asking, how many 2SI do I have? I technically have 4. Jack says not as many as Trident cards. David says, you say that now, but... Yeah. Oh, you say that now, lol. Okay. But let's review the 2SIs that I have. We have the first 2SI that I bought. I recapped it. I rebuilt its power supply. And now I can't get it to power on. It was being somewhat uncooperative. Now I can't get it the board to power on. We have the second 2SI that half the pads for the capacitors are missing, so it's going to be incredibly difficult to actually recap it. And it's powering up and you get a screen that it has a color screen. Now granted, I haven't put it in a case to see if it plays a SADMAC sound. But it's not a good recap candidate because half the pads are missing. Or yeah, at least half the pads are missing for capacitors. And some of them, it's not really easy to get to where the leg needs to go. But anyways. The third one is one of the two from tonight. It powers up, but we get Technicolor screens. It was recapped by someone other than me. So it probably needs to go through the ultrasonic cleaner because I'm not sure they cleaned it. But we're not even getting a chime on this one. And then this fourth one, we actually get a chime and an immediate SAD/MAC. So it's probably our best candidate because at least we get a chime and a SAD/MAC. And it's a black screen on power up, which at least tells me that I think maybe the Mac attempted to start to initialize the video, but all right, we have a debate about the 6100 in the chat. I don't know how you get the 6100 to 100 megahertz. That seems like too much for that system. Anyways, my 6100 will just stay at its... Actually, it's not a 6100. It's a Performa 6117 CD, but you wouldn't know that from it because its model number label fell off. I only figured out which one it was based on the hard drive that was in it. Anyways, so with that, that's the stream. So, next week, no streams. The following week, on the 29th, I will be back to my regular schedule, and we'll be looking at the IBM 5150 on Tuesday, because I really would like to take a look at that system. And then maybe that Thursday, we will return to the IIsi. Because maybe by that point, I will have had a chance to ultrasonically clean both these boards from tonight. Try to find a DB9 connector that we can make a serial cable with. And look up what I need to do to just the basic instructions for running the diagnostic mode. So, I will not be on your stream Sunday, Dave. I will, yeah, my week off. My week off starts Saturday, so I will be unavailable for your stream, and I'm not streaming next week. So it will be the following Sunday I will hopefully be on your stream. But this Sunday I will not be on your stream. So anyways, with that, I hope you all, I thank you all for joining, hanging out in the chat, being cool. And yes. With that, I am going to end the stream so I can get some sleep and hopefully get to work so I can try to make sure I get everything I need to get done tomorrow. Yep, I will enjoy my time off. So, and in fact, if you all notice, I've already scheduled the stream for when I get back. So, there you go. So, hopefully that'll... So, next week when you inevitably forget that I'm on my vacation week, hopefully you'll see that the schedule for the following Monday and remember, oh yeah, okay, that's right, Justin's not streaming next week. So anyways, yeah, I hope to see you all here next time. And with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take care and God bless. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time. And until then, take care.